Oh, hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special stream. So, today I am joined via Skype interview by my very talented cover artist, Sive Murphy, and
Hi.
her boyfriend, Jack Finnegan. And we're going
Hi,
to
can I teach you?
just discuss all kinds of topics about, you know, light novels, from normal light novels to original English light novels, and anime, a little bit about Clandestine itself, and just to have, good time. All right, so first, do you guys have any questions about Clandestine itself?
Well, yeah, we were busy in the last one, so we only got to read the first two volumes. We were very impressed by them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um. One thing I was interested about was about the concept of the whole books itself. How did you come up with them, and what was your inspiration for them?
Well, that's actually very interesting because, so, when I was about 15 years old, that was when my cousin, he for years actually was trying to really get me into anime, and I just wasn't doing it, mostly because the ones that he wanted to get me into were Naruto and One Piece, and I just couldn't get into it. So finally at 17, though, he kind of tricked me. He was spending the night, and he introduced me to Bleach. Um, and I was like, all right, this is actually pretty good. I enjoy this one. So when I started, really getting into it, I wanted to know more, Well, I was like, okay, I'm discovering this whole anime thing. It's really cool. I like it. But, you know, um the story for Bleach was really good, but I also felt like it was kind of lacking. And actually, that's something that I want to talk about too a little bit later, but we'll get into that, as I said, a little bit later. But anyway, I started looking through and trying to figure out if there was another style that, suited me better. And
Mm-hmm.
it was just kind of a random search. And I ran into one called Canon. Now, Canon was an anime that was created, I think, in 2001 first, and it was based off of a visual novel by the same name. And it was about a young man who is visiting a town that he hasn't been to in 10 years. He used to go there all the time when he was a kid because his aunt and cousin lived there, but something happened 10 years ago that really set him off, and like he avoided it like the plague until he didn't have a choice because something to do with his parents. I think they were off uh uh across the sea doing something for work or something, and he couldn't stay by himself, so he was sent to live with his aunt and his cousin. And he he's there, and he can't remember really anything about the town, but he starts meeting people one by one that are a little quirky, a little strange. Um, but he finds little by little that he actually has different connections to these people. And the thing that I really liked about that one is, you know, most of the time I think when it comes to uh, TV in general and even books, people tend to use them, I think, as an excuse or like an escape from the real world. there's this
Yeah.
fantastic world where, in the end, everything kind of just falls into a place and goes right. It might not be that way right away, but it gets there. But
Mm.
when it came to canon and later on more anime that I found based on other visual novels by the same company, Key, is that they were really, really open and not afraid, to talk about difficult things, um, talk about things that are unfair. Um, you know, uh, there was one character that was judged a lot because of an ability that she had, and people were afraid. So, they started to really judge her. They actually chased her out of the town that she lived in originally. And she
Yeah.
traveled to the town that the the, the young man was visiting um, when she was a kid, and that's where they met. Um, but also things like understanding that you know the line between life and death and all of these things that are really really heavy, but I still feel like are important to talk about because you know I think, well, maybe not much anymore, but that's another topic altogether. Like I said, I think when it comes to
Yes.
entertainment, a lot of the difficult things that, especially the younger generation, they need to be aware of these things, that are there so that they can have these discussions and so that they can understand, yes, these things are around, they're bad, but on the other hand, there are so many good things out in this world too. And so you have to look for the good and the bad. So later on, when I started to discover more anime in this genre, kind of the slice of life genre, I was like, this is
Mhm.
really good, but this is something that's very lacking. So when I started to create Clandestine, I wanted to create a story that, people could understand, okay, this character is feeling like the odd man out. He's feeling very kind of alone. And because there are people that feel that way, they feel like the odd man out, the odd woman out, and they do feel alone. And there's another one, the other main character, she's very, very angry because she feels like her brother, her family, just kind of left for no reason. And this was when she was a child. Of course, now she understands a little bit more. But I got into the aspect of
Yeah.
when she was a child, all she really understood was he wasn't there anymore. And that, that anger and that resentment that kind of followed her even after he came back. Um, and just kind of getting through all of those things. And so, adding different characters that have all of these different things that are are difficult, um, all these things that they had to kind of, you know, win over. Um, but understanding that they can't do it by themselves. That's one of the reason why all of them are being gathered is because not only are they tied together by this sort of destiny that has brought them together, but there are all these different trials and these tribulations that they're going through, and they need each other. Um,
Yeah. You mentioned the sort of the difficult topics that come up in the book. I thought that they are addressed very well in Clandestine,
Yeah.
like loss and the feeling of being different. I thought it came across very well.
Well, thank you. I actually I started a rewrite a little bit because it's one of those things I think where us as content creators, whether it be books or, videos or what have you, I think sometimes we might kind of get excited in the moment and we're like, okay, we're going to produce this and we're going to get it out and it's going to be, great. And then, we come back to it a little bit later and we're like, eh, it's good, but I don't think it's reached its full potential yet.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
stuff that can be changed or improved upon. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, exactly. There's things that could be changed. There's stuff that could be added. Um, one of the things that I've found is that, especially in the beginning, I was so focused on, trying to get these main characters introduced, but the way in which I did it, I felt at least, it almost felt as if the scene was them and then there was like nobody else. It was, focused
yeah,
Yeah.
specifically on them. So when I rewrote it, especially the first couple of chapters, um, I really started to, look into other writings and also just kind of look around, and see and observe how conversations go and how, especially when you're in a setting that is not, just by yourself. There's other conversations going, there's different ways that people relate. And also, too, I've discovered the difference between uh, details and clutter. Um,
yeah,
Mm.
I felt that I was getting very detailed, but I also felt like it was kind of losing the scene a little bit because there was one point in which Kai was entering, his boss's office, and I'm describing the room. I'm like really trying to describe the room, and I looked at it and I'm like, something is wrong here. Why does this
Mm.
not feel right? And I'm like, wait a minute, it's because it doesn't it's not natural. Like, I'm supposed to be doing this from Kai's perspective. He's been in this room hundreds of times. He already knows what to expect. He's not gonna like
yeah,
dart
Yeah.
his eyes around everywhere, to get every little detail. So I trimmed that down a
Yeah.
little bit, added a little bit of humor.
get inside the mind of the character. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, added a little bit of humor. The room is kind of empty. So I'm just like, he thought to himself, she could at least get a fish. Um, to make the office feel a little bit more alive.
yeah,
Yeah.
And one of the other things too is I wanted the characters to feel natural. So I was actually in a discussion with somebody else on Facebook, and they were talking about how I can't remember which type of anime it was. It wasn't isekai, it was one of the other ones. And they were talking about
hmm
how
Mm.
a lot of the times, especially in stuff like Fairy Tale and even Bleach, um, the the female characters are very overshadowed by the males. The males
yeah,
Yeah.
stand out, but then the females are kind of centralized in sometimes some not so good ways. Um, and I'm like, but that's not how people really are. Like, I mean, some people are. Some people are shy, and some people feel more comfortable slinking in the shadows. But other people, I feel like when somebody, I don't know, almost like challenges you by doing something in a way that you feel is like a little bit better than you, then you are not obligated, but you're pushed into trying to, better yourself a little bit more. So, what I wanted to do was I wanted everybody to feel, that Kai had a lot of growing up to do. And I wanted everybody to feel like, Kakona was more this sort of, he was very kind of full of herself, very, um, confident person. And that
Yeah.
kind of, because it annoyed Kai so much, sort of, brought him out of his shell and be like, okay, I'm going to push back a little bit more and show a little bit of more my attitude, and my fire. And it really,
Yeah. Yeah.
they balance each other out. I thought that was really important because, like I said, like I didn't want it
Yeah.
to turn into people just everybody everywhere getting overshadowed by one particular character, because that's not really how people actually interact with each other.
No, not at all.
No.
Yeah.
So I mean, but what do you guys? I mean, when you guys read certain books or watch, certain anime or whatever, do you kind of see that style as well, where it kind of feels almost as if the main character is literally the main character and that's all they really focus on?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a tunnel vision by the creator sometimes, where the only character that matters to them is the primary one,
Exactly.
and they forget to flesh out all the other characters.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So it feels like they're all interacting with other people.
Right. And then there's the other
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then there's the other ones where, they start out with this great story where there's this supposed to be this growth or this story that the character is supposed to go through, and then all of a sudden it's like, where'd it go? Where did that story go? It was great, it was perfect, but now it's gone.
Oh, they just lost it.
Yeah.
No, it's definitely one of the more challenging parts of writing is to keep it all in balance and keep everything in perspective.
Yeah.
Definitely, because I mean, more than anything, you don't want your audience to get bored. I think
No, of course.
No.
I think sometimes I start reading something and then if the story doesn't carry or the characters don't carry, it's just like, what? where
Yeah, there's no will to carry on with
Yeah,
it.
pretty much.
where did this go? I don't understand. But yeah.
But yeah, in terms of like anime and stuff, I'd always be more interested in like the side characters than the actual main character. But the sides will just never have that development that the main has.
Exactly.
And, it's sad to watch.
Yes, the side
Yeah.
characters, even when they start to, that you think they're gonna have this fantastic backstory, and it starts out that way.
Yeah, exactly. They'll hype it up.
But then
Yeah. And it just goes
they're
down.
side characters, so they gotta get pushed off to the side. It's like,
Exactly.
no.
The main characters, plot armor. It's like, who cares about side characters?
So, Saib, I came across your artwork in one of the Facebook groups as well. I think it was one of the
Yeah.
Kingdom Hearts ones, I think. And
I think so, yeah.
I was really, really interested in, and that's kind of how I came about, finding you and hiring you for doing my my book covers. And you were asking me, a little bit about like what kind of style I wanted. And I told you, I liked the more realistic, kind of darker Final Fantasy style. Uh,
Yeah.
but a lot of people, I think, when they when they come in contact with an artist, a lot of things they want to know is like, how exactly did you go about finding your own style? Because even though it is Final Fantasy, style, it's still your style. So
Mm.
how did you kind of go about, building that up and finding that?
Okay, so I'm just gonna put it out here. So I was a massive nerd for Kingdom Hearts since I was like 4. So basically, I was really captured by like the box art, Tetsuya Nomura, and then the CGI openings, where it's just like jaw-dropping stuff. So kind of just kept drawing stuff similar to that, and eventually it kind of led to what you see now. But yeah, basically all Square Enix for me. It they see where that art style even came from, which is yes. But yeah, I'm just a massive Nomura nerd. It's pretty much what it
You know,
is.
so am I. So there is no no shame there. I love
No,
Nomura,
just
and I think that um he definitely understands what it means to create a very compelling story. And not only just, you know, just Sora, but also, filling in the stories of the other characters as well. I was really, really, compelled and happy when way back when um Birth by Sleep came out, because it was one of the things where there was this audience and they were captured and they were enthralled with this story, but there was a lot that wasn't
mm,
understood. And so I was really glad when Nomura kind of went back in time and started, putting in, these different details, and a lot of people, they're
yeah.
like, but it makes it so confusing and so, convoluted, and just why? And it's like, but no, not really though. If you go, of course, you have to go back far enough. But if you go back far enough,
Yeah.
like, it's actually kind of pretty easy to put most of the story
Yeah,
together. Um,
once you lay it all out and go through, you can understand what he's trying to get at. But yeah, he'll always leave something that's just not solved for years, and then he'll just throw it out there by the end after like 10 years,
well, yeah, there is that.
give or take.
There is that where I think it could have been a little bit more, put together a little better. But then on the other hand, too, gotta remember is that when it first came out, Kingdom Hearts was supposed to be a standalone game. So,
That's true.
um, the story is that uh the top of Square Enix and the top of Disney Japan, they were in the same building, and they got stuck in the same elevator, and they started
Yeah, and
having
then
this
there's just like,
conversation, and it just
yeah, it's like, wouldn't it be cool to cross this over?
snowball.
Final Fantasy and Disney. And they were just like,
Exactly.
yeah.
It's one of those things that you think shouldn't work, but it does. Um,
I know, that's the weird part about it. It's
it
crazy.
is. And I am I love, story driven games, and that's one of the things that I love about not only Kingdom Hearts, but Final Fantasy, and also
Mm.
the Tales series. Uh,
Oh, yeah.
I introduced you to the Tales series a little bit not too long ago, but I actually, so if you type in, some of the different Tales Tales games into YouTube, and I'll send you some links later, and start to kind of watch the playthroughs. They have
Mm.
tons and tons of story, where they put together this whole world of legend, and the reasons why all of this come about, and it's really fascinating. It's more, I think, mid kind of medieval almost, kind of what
Yeah.
Final Fantasy was in the very beginning, was more medieval style.
Inning. Yeah. Just
Hmm.
yeah, before 7 pretty much.
Before all of this stuff about like Shinra and the, I can't remember what they're called, but soldier, or the Shinra and the soldier and
Yeah.
the, more
Avalanche and all that.
avalanche, yeah, in the modern world and everything else. It was definitely more medieval,
Yeah.
and that's something that I also love about Elder Scrolls. All of these different stories, all these different games
That
and
goes pretty good.
stories that a lot of people miss, I think. Uh,
Yeah. I agree.
so, Jack, have you? So I know it's something, books and light novels and stuff, something that kind of that interests you. But have you ever thought about, a story that you wanted to work on, something that you wanted to, work into a story, or
Well, yeah, I've actually I've uh, I haven't done any like big projects or anything, but I've worked on a few short stories and stuff, and mainly just ideas that I've thrown about. But for me, what I'd like to start off with, I'd like to get like a strong idea or a team that to build the rest of the book around.
definitely,
Uh,
definitely. I mean,
yeah, yeah,
it has to start with one idea, or even just like
yeah,
smaller ideas that eventually come together. But yeah,
yeah, yeah. Uh, yeah, the biggest books that sort of inspired me growing up are sort of classical ones, say like The Catcher in the Rye or Post
oh
Office.
really?
And the thing I like most about them, yeah, the thing I like most about them is that the plot can be nearly like secondary to the story. They choose just a universal sort of idea that everybody can relate to, and they put it in a way that sort of involves the reader, and so everyone can relate to.
That's great.
So yeah, that's how I try and base any my works off.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's one of the biggest things that I wanted, and that I still want Clandestine to be, is something that people can relate to, because everybody has these things that they're going through, and
Yeah,
I think it's really important for people to understand that there's a big, big world, and if you spend too much time focusing on the bad and the unfair and the, what have you, which unfortunately I think these days we're starting to do, um, and you don't look for the good things, or you don't take it the time to look around you and like realize that there are other people that are going through the same thing that you're going through, that can relate, and kind of build those relationships that can can flourish, and you can help each other, you know
yeah. One of the big the biggest point of books is that they can speak to so many people in the same way and sort of draw connections between each of them.
exactly, yes, yes. Well, do you guys have any other like burning questions about the series before we wrap up?
Oh, this is just a small question. It's just I was rereading the first couple of volumes today, and noticed a couple of the chapter headings had chess terms in the titles. I was wondering, is there any sort of calls for them,
Yeah. Connection.
or are you personally interested in anything like that, or?
You mean the font, or sorry, I
The chapter titles. I noticed a few of them
the
had
title.
chess
Yeah.
terms.
So okay,
Yeah.
originally this is actually a little bit of so originally I was trying to figure out what I wanted to name the book, and I started thinking of the story a little bit, and I thought about how each part was playing out and how it felt like there was always somebody or something kind of in the background making moves, and I thought this is like a chess game. So when I thought about that, I was like, I'm going to relate the chapter titles to something like chess. But then there were times when I couldn't really figure out how to do that, how to incorporate that, especially like the second chapter.
Yeah.
So I remembered another anime that I sometimes I have no qualms with, and sometimes I really feel kind of embarrassed that I enjoyed so much.
A guilty pleasure.
Vampire Rosario. And how a lot of those
Oh,
chapter
I've
titles
heard
were
of
kind of goofy, and they had vampire and something, and it was just something that was kind of outlandish and ridiculous that made you think, okay, what in the world is going to happen in this episode here, or this chapter here? So every once in a while, I would kind of draw from that and throw something, like that in there if I couldn't think of, like a specific, chess move or a chess style. Uh, so.
Mhm.
Dive, any questions from you?
No, I think I'm good.
Mhm.
You?
Yeah.
No? All right, well.
No.
All right, well. Thank you guys. This was really fun. I think we had a really nice conversation, about, just the stuff
Oh,
that we've, seen, stuff that we have enjoyed about certain, aspects of anime and books and stories in general, stuff that we don't quite like, stuff that, wish would change, and that's kind of what I was going for. So it was really, really good
yeah.
talking
Lovely
Yeah.
talk.
to
Thank
you,
you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
and unofficially finally meeting the two of you.
Yeah.
It's been a long time
It
coming.
has.
All right. Well, thank you again for coming and doing this with me. And if you
Thank you
guys
for having
want
us.
to see more of my content, stuff like this and video games and light novels and just a whole bunch of fun stuff, you can go ahead and follow me on Twitter. I don't have any of that laid out on here because I couldn't find the room, but my Twitter handle is at Hinata_Kai, and that is where I will put not only what I will be streaming, but when. And of course, if you are on YouTube, go ahead and like this video, give a comment, and subscribe. For those of you on Twitch, if you want to see more, follow me and do all those wonderful streaming shenanigans. And I will talk to you guys later. Thank you for tuning in.